Paris, 1943. A German officer slumps to the floor in a busy cafe, dead. Not a soul heard a shot. No blood-curdling bang, no warning, just a silent kill delivered from what looked like a plumber's pipe. How did Britain invent a weapon for covert assassinations so quiet it could erase a target in a crowd without a single witness knowing? And why did its ugly design make it the most feared tool of resistance across occupied Europe? If that sounds insane, stick around, because this is the story of the Wellrod, the pistol designed to kill without a sound. Winston Churchill did not just want to fight the Nazis on open battlefields. He wanted to ignite chaos deep behind enemy lines. In the summer of 1940, as German troops marched through Paris and occupation spread across Europe, Churchill issued his now famous order to the newly formed Special Operations Executive, SOE. He said, "Set Europe ablaze." The SOE's mission was clear and ruthless: recruit, train, and send agents into the heart of occupied territory. Build resistance networks from scratch, sabotage railways, factories, and supply lines, and eliminate collaborators and high-ranking German officers wherever they could be found. These were not soldiers in uniform. They were men and women dropped by parachute into the dark, landing in fields outside French villages, slipping across the Danish border, or hiding among the forests of Norway. Every agent carried a death sentence if caught. Their work demanded tools that could match the risks they faced, something invisible, something that could end a life in silence and vanish just as quickly. But the weapons available were crude. Knives and garrotes demanded strength and nerve. Poison was slow, unreliable, and sometimes betrayed its user. Even the best suppressed pistols and submachine guns still roared loud enough to wake an entire block. For the SOE, the problem was not just how to kill, it was how to kill quietly in the middle of a city and leave nothing but confusion in their wake. The pressure to innovate did not come from a laboratory. It came from Churchill's desk and from the desperate need of agents risking everything behind enemy lines. In the field, every second counted and every sound risked disaster. Agents operating behind enemy lines faced a brutal reality. The tools meant to keep them alive could just as easily betray them. A knife demanded strength, precision, and nerves of steel. One slip, one hesitation, and the target could fight back or cry out. Garrotes required perfect timing and close contact. There was no room for error. Even poison, the supposed weapon of silent killers, often acted too slowly or left telltale signs. A dose might fail, or worse, alert the target before it finished the job. Firearms, even with crude suppressors, were a double-edged sword. The muted roar of a suppressed Sten or pistol still echoed through stone walls and narrow alleys. One shot could bring German patrols running, collapse a safe house, or doom an entire resistance cell. The sound of gunfire, no matter how muffled, shattered any hope of slipping away unnoticed. For agents tasked with assassinating collaborators or sentries in busy cities, the available options were not just risky, they were often a death sentence. Silence was not a luxury. It was the difference between vanishing into the night and being dragged into a Gestapo cell. The need for a weapon that could kill without a trace was no longer a theoretical problem. It was a matter of survival, demanded by the reality of war in the shadows. At Station 9, the challenge was not just to make a gun quieter. The task was to break down exactly what made a gunshot so loud. The engineers did not see a pistol. They saw a tangle of problems, each one governed by its own physics. First was the crack of the bullet itself. When a standard 9mm round leaves the barrel, it usually travels faster than the speed of sound, about 343 meters per second at sea level. That supersonic speed creates a sharp, unmistakable shock wave. No suppressor can muffle that crack. It is a miniature sonic boom. Second was the blast of hot gas. When gunpowder ignites, it produces a sudden surge of pressure that drives the bullet down the barrel. As soon as the bullet exits, those gases explode out behind it. That burst is what most people think of as the bang. It is a violent rush of expanding air that can carry for blocks in a city. Even the best suppressors can only slow and cool those gases. They cannot erase them. The third problem was mechanical. Most pistols are semi-automatic, with a slide that snaps back and forth after every shot. Springs compress, metal parts slam together, and the whole action produces a series of sharp, metallic clicks and clacks. In a quiet room, that mechanical racket stands out almost as much as the gunshot itself. Every one of these noises needed its own solution. The team at Station 9 knew that to build a truly silent weapon, they could not just make a better silencer. They had to tackle each sound at its source, one by one. Hugh Reeves didn't just tinker with gun parts, he rewrote the rules of what a pistol could be. The first breakthrough targeted the very sound of the bullet. Standard 9mm rounds blaze out of a barrel at 350 meters per second, breaking the sound barrier with a sharp, unmistakable crack. Reeves cut the powder load, slowing the Wellrod's bullet to 290 meters per second, subsonic. The result was simple. The bullet slipped through the air without a sonic boom. The first problem was solved. The work was not finished. The next challenge was mechanical noise. Most pistols rely on slides that snap back and forth, cycling rounds with a metallic clatter. Reeves stripped all that away. The Wellrod used a manual bolt action, worked by a knurled knob at the rear. Each shot required a deliberate, silent action. No springs, no sudden snaps, just a soft metallic whisper. It was slower, but in the world of silent killing, speed meant nothing if it risked a single extra decibel, but the real genius was up front. 2/3 of the Wellrod's length was dedicated to a suppressor that was not an accessory. It was the weapon. Inside sat a maze of baffles and rubber wipes that forced hot gases to twist, expand, and cool long before they reached the outside air. Each shot bled its energy so gradually that the final sound was barely more than a thud. The numbers tell the story. A normal 9mm pistol thunders at 160 decibels. Even a typical suppressed pistol still cracks at 120 decibels. The Wellrod, with its subsonic round and labyrinth of baffles, registered just 73 decibels, a noise level closer to a car door closing than a gunshot. In a crowded room, 10 meters away, it simply vanished into the background. For the first time, a gun could truly kill in silence. In occupied France, the line between safety and death ran through the heart of every crowded street and smoky cafe. A German officer ordered coffee, his uniform catching the eye of everyone in the room. A resistance operative, face hidden behind the morning paper, waited until conversations swelled loud enough to cover a single, dull thud. The officer slumped forward, lifeless, while the assassin slipped into the Paris rain. No one registered a shot, only confusion, a sudden hush, and then panic as the truth dawned. In Denmark, informants and collaborators learned to fear silence most of all. Doors opened to nothing but a whisper, and men who had betrayed their neighbors simply vanished, their last moments marked by the absence of any alarm. Norwegian saboteurs moved under cover of darkness, removing sentries from their posts with a quiet that bought precious minutes for demolition teams. Across these occupied cities, the Wellrod spread a new kind of dread. People learned that death could come in the middle of a crowd without a single warning sound. German engineers tried to solve the same problem with their own suppressed pistols, like the Walther PPK fitted with a screw-on silencer. These managed to cut the noise down to 115 decibels, quiet compared to an unsuppressed shot, but still unmistakable as a gunshot in any room. Across the Atlantic, the American Office of Strategic Services issued the high-standard HDM, a .22 caliber pistol with a suppressor that brought the sound down to 90 decibels. It was quieter, but the small .22 round often needed more than one shot to stop a target, especially through heavy clothing. The Wellrod stood apart. At 73 decibels, it was not just quieter. It was deadly with a single 9mm round or a .32 round. Yet this silence came at a cost. The rubber wipes inside the suppressor wore out quickly. After a dozen shots, the sound level crept up, and the Wellrod lost its edge. It was never built for firefights. It was a tool for a handful of critical moments where silence mattered more than anything else. Secrecy shaped the Wellrod, but its lesson endures. True power lies in what remains unseen and unheard. Even now, as silent weapons evolve, the gap between what is visible and what is possible keeps growing. In war and in peace, some threats never announce themselves. Share your thoughts below.